today we have celebrity herself, the one and only Kitty Lundan. Kitty Lundan.
Hey there.
Wait, could we give your name? That's bad, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
You don't want to disclose that?
No, that's fine. So government name is
Yeah.
Kenya Madison.
Kenya, I couldn't remember.
Yes, but there have been so many Kenyas, especially in.
Wait.
No, seriously.
So
Google Kenya on TV. There's quite a few Kenyas.
So let me get this straight. So there's several Kenya Madisons, Kenya overall.
Just Kenya, yeah.
You decided I'm gonna just change to Kitty Lundan.
Right. But then I have a name twin, like in Palm Beach County. Literally have a name twin in Palm Beach County. And I didn't know that until later. We were in a church event and someone said Kenya Madison and we both stood up and we're like, wait a minute, we're real Kenya Madison, please stand up. So that was interesting.
And it's someone local like you know of?
Yeah, they're in Delray.
Wow, that's
right.
pretty creepy.
But Kitty Lundan actually came from a backstory of me being an entertainer. I have Yum Yum here on my tatted on. That was my first rap name.
Wait a minute. So you went from Kenya Madison to Yum Yum.
Well, I was born Kenya Madison. So
right. And then you
persona.
converted to Yum Yum.
Yes.
I don't want to go to Yum Yum yet. I want to give that a little time because Yum Yum is going to be a very interesting story.
Well,
I already know. Yum Yum.
Yum Yum. YUM. That was my rap name
Okay,
for
cool.
many, many years. And when I matured and I realized how important branding was, I had to get a name.
From Yum Yum.
Yeah, I had to get it. Yeah, I had to get a name that one was a little more mature and also something that was good for branding because I was not only an MC, but I did other things. I wanted to do acting. I wanted to write. I wanted to create. And I'm like, yeah, you walking in a boardroom and your name's Yum Yum. Like, yeah, no, that's not.
That wasn't gonna work.
That's not really. I mean, and hey, maybe if I, was a stripper until I was 60.
Well, okay, let's go bring it back
but
a little
I've never
bit.
been a stripper. But if I had been, Yum Yum would have.
Yum Yum would have been a great name.
Would have been appropriate.
Would have been a great name.
Yes.
So let's start from the beginning, Miss Kitty Lundan.
Okay.
Kenya Kitty Lundan. Mm-hmm. So born and raised in
Boston, Massachusetts.
Oh,
Pack
man.
the Kai. Celtics, Patriots, Beantown, 617.
You really repping. Okay. You're here now. You're here in Palm Beach now.
I just had to.
Yeah, be very clear about where you're from.
Credentials, yeah.
How long before you moved down to Florida?
So I was the age of 10 and a half, actually, when I moved to Florida. So, 30 years here. You're a Floridian at this point.
So growing up in Boston, what was that experience for you? Raised with mom and dad?
Just raised with mom. Single parent. Only child.
Ooh. Gosh.
So I have a lot of only child tendencies, even as an adult. We'll get to that too, in regards to why I am the way I am. Because you grow up alone. You're used to being alone with my cats and my teddy bears. So I had to be creative early because I had no one. So when I went in my room, I had to create friends and I had to create different things that I wanted to do. And only children are special.
So growing up with mom, was that you guys had like a teamwork relationship?
Yeah, it was like it came across more of a sisterhood. Now, my mom was very responsible, but because we were so close, it was more like a sisterhood, momhood type relationship.
You guys just had to hold each other down.
Correct.
And then how did you guys end up leaving from Boston to down here?
Well, see, this is my mom's hometown.
Okay.
So my uncle, who was the rebel of the family, he decided to move to Boston first. And then some other people decided to move. So it was kind of like an Atlanta thing. Oh, move to Boston. It's a new thing. It's up north. It's the culture's different. The weather's different. So my mom basically decided one day she was going to move to Boston. And she moved. And I think a couple years after that, she had me.
Did she come from a large family?
Yeah, well, she has three other siblings. So 2 brothers that are now deceased and my aunt who's still living. So yeah, 4.
So she left from Florida up there and from the rebel uncle that decided to move to cold Boston.
Be revolutionary and said, yes, come here, family.
So once you got down here, how was this transition for you?
It was different, very different. because talking about the word culture, people talk different here in Florida. People dress different here. People act different. So I came as a young girl, 10, very impressionable. Think about your 5th grade life. You know,
Don't want to.
that was the that was the climate of bullying and finding out where you were. You were going through the whole elementary, going to middle school. So that transition, and it was a little rough. I didn't have brothers and sisters to come and say, "Hey, I got your back." I was literally dropped on a planet by myself. That's what I felt like. I'm an alien. I talk different, dress different. Because it's different.
But your mother was also from down here. She didn't carry that accent with her, or?
No, she didn't. And then she was in Boston for 10 plus years, well, probably like 12, 13 years. So she kind of changed a little bit too, you know, coming from Boston. But it was weird. I got friends, but I really learned how to defend myself very quickly because I was alienated and I had to do things for friendship. So I started being funny. I started doing music and rapping. So I thought, I was like, wow, these things kind of attract people. Yeah, I was rapping early because I came from poetry. I always liked to write. And then at that era, we started with the beatboxing, and then, you mesh with people. So I was a captain of the safety patrol. I was always smart. I was in gifted classes because, again, the education up north, no shade to
it's just clear.
The Southern teaching, but usually a lot of the kids are far more advanced in teaching.
Did you have, so you said
I went to Catholic school.
I did too, growing up in Northeast. I grew up in Connecticut. Absolutely.
Rosaries.
Yeah. So, but now growing up, so when you moved down here, did you have a lot of family? Did your uncles and aunt have?
So I had cousins. I have a big family when it comes to cousins. Mm-hmm. And so we were not as close as I probably would have wanted us to be as a young child. I mean, we visited, you have your Thanksgiving and people gather. Back then, family reunions were a little more prominent than they are now. I don't know when the last time people
That's real. That's a real
right?
thing.
So that was when we gathered. But as far as school, I didn't go to school with any of my cousins at a young age. I happened to have a cousin when I was in high school who was a year older than me. So that kind of helped. But by then I kind of had made my way. I had my friends, my clique, and yeah.
Yeah. So then when you got here, when you were around 5th grade, so growing up as a young girl in West Palm?
West Palm.
West Palm Beach. What school did you attend in West Palm Beach?
So let's backtrack. So Palmview Elementary. Then I went to Roosevelt Middle School. Then I went to Suncoast.
How was that experience in dealing, before you get to there, in Roosevelt, was there any, so that's when you started that click thing where you had to find who you're going to be able to build a relationship with? Like, how was that?
Yeah, correct. So elementary school kind of started because the people that you went to elementary school with, you generally went to middle school with, that transition. So it was like the same group of people. And I was just always one of those people who, again, they knew me for rapping. They knew me for poetry. I was in chorus. I couldn't sing, but I was in chorus. Tried out for the cheerleading team, didn't make it. And I ended up being a majorette in the band. So I was one of the only, also too, I was in classical band. So I was one of the only girls that played in the percussion section. I was the bells. Had this thing on me and I was like ding ding ding, and we were in the drum section. It was really weird, but it was fun. So I always had like some type of musical connection with people, or some type of art connection with people. Like if performing arts was my thing. Was
that your identity that you found, or was that something that you were forced into because everybody else was doing it?
No. Okay, so basically, let me just backtrack real quick. I would come here sometimes for summer with my aunt. And my aunt is a psychologist, so she was really busy. And so she would put me in these camps. Usually I would probably, be the only Black in the camp, because I would go to like a science camp. And then one time I went to a performing arts camp, and I was Betsy Ross. I don't know if you know who Betsy Ross is. She's the one that made the flag. Okay, whatever. But, right. But I always was in something that made me either think or create. So I think I gravitated to it. Like it always was something that was in me. And now that I look at it, I probably was not forced to do it. But when you put someone in an environment, they're going to either survive it or they're going to not survive it. And I chose to survive it. So I'm in a culture of people that I'm not familiar with, but we're going to do this dance together. We're going to do Grease together. We're going to do whatever these instructors ask us to do. Oh, Ballet Florida was the place that taught me a lot. I did tap dancing,
So,
ballet.
how important do you believe that the influence that you had from what the aunt,
Hmm. Yes.
put you? How important was that part of your life to where you are right now?
I think it was very important because it introduced me to arts at an earlier age. And it introduced me to a different art because being Black, being young, I probably would have went to one genre, which is two, which would be of course R&B or rap because that's what we listen to. But because I was exposed to jazz and I was exposed to other types of music, country, I think I broadened my learning spectrum when it came to music and then appreciating it more.
So, and then going back to the identity piece,
Hmm.
I want to go back a little bit more. The relationship with father.
It was off and on. So
Earlier, was he in Boston or was he here?
he was in Boston, so I would see him every now and then. He wasn't somebody that was constantly in my life. I did reach out to him later. I found him, I reached out, and he apologized for everything he did. And then we kind of got, a little, but it was by phone because he lived in Milwaukee. He moved back to his hometown as well. And then one time I didn't hear from him, but you know how it is when you don't hear from somebody often, it's normal.
Mm.
So you could, let's say, pick up from a conversation a year ago and it's just like you just talked. Do you ever have those people in your life?
Absolutely.
So when I didn't hear from him in months, it was normal to me. And you know how you just think about someone, you're like, hey, and I would call him Alan because that was my I never said dad. I always called him by his first name. So I was thinking, I was like, wow, what? I haven't heard from Alan. I wonder how he's doing. I called, nobody answered, called, nobody answered. So I had an aunt that I reached out to. And we didn't really have a close relationship, but she knew about me. And so I called her and she said, he died like months ago. I was like, what? Like months ago? What?
Wait. So before you get to even the death part,
Mhm.
this is so interesting to me. So your relationship with your biological father
Hmm.
was Alan.
Yes.
Is it because that's what your mom called him or
Correct.
people in the community?
No, it was correct because my mom called him Alan and also because it was almost symbolic to me to call him Alan and not dad. He never was a father figure to me, so it didn't really even feel natural. I knew he was my dad, but it never felt natural for me to call him dad
He wasn't around.
because he wasn't around. So it was like he was a visitor. And so I called and you look at it now, you're like, well, I knew more than I thought I knew at that young age to call him Alan. Because people like want to say dad. Oh, my dad, my father. But it's like the relationship that we had didn't allow me to call him dad. And it was okay.
So wow, that's so when you called him Alan, he just accepted it? It was like,
He responded. And he knew, like I said, as he got older and probably realized how bad of a father he was, he came to a realization to apologize to me and my mom for the abandonment.
did he have other children?
So, yes, I was always told I had 4 brothers. I don't know where that came from, but I have supposedly 2 brothers outside of me. And I met one of my brothers on Facebook. My mom, that's a whole other story. My mom remembered his name and something said, go on Facebook, because everybody's on Facebook mostly. I mean, not everyone. I would say 80% of the population is probably on Facebook. And I saw the name, I Googled it, and I reached out. And he didn't respond. But if you go on Facebook and you do the inbox, you can see the little bubble head that... I call it the little bubble head that shows. So it's like, you read my message.
You seen it.
So I had to come back and say, Kenya, I had to call myself Kenya. I'm like, this man don't know you from a can of paint. There's a lot of crazies out here that hackers.
How old were you at that time?
This was like 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm 40, and he didn't respond. So I had a picture of my dad and it said to my daughter. And I share his name on my driver's license. Like it's in the middle. I was like, Mom, you tried to put everyone's name on my driver's license. But anyway, So I took a risk because I'm like, I don't know him either. I took a picture of my driver's license with my name that matches his name. And I took a picture of the picture that said your daughter. And I sent it to him. And he wrote me back and he was like, oh my gosh. He's like, I thought I was the only child. And I was like, no, hey, brother. No, you're not. And
Wow.
yeah, so we actually talked and, we got, and he even said, like, he told me stories about him and he's like, he was a drunk, he was this and that. And, I knew some of the things, but
Did he
it
have a
was
relationship with him?
it was almost like mine. It was almost like mine. It was certain things that he had shared with me that, they had like I wouldn't even say it was closer. I would just say a different relationship.
So what is the feeling like to know you have other siblings and you don't know them?
It's not a feeling.
Is that a
Because
thing that
you
you have to
can't-
learn to do to
It's
keep, like-
almost kind of like you can't miss something you're not familiar with. So it's not like we were in the same house and, we got taken away from each other and I knew and I was like, I got to find my brother. No. Like that Color Purple thing. I never knew them. I never grew up with them. We didn't have a bond.
So someone told me years ago, is what you don't know won't hurt you. Right? So did you create something in your head where it's easier not to find out who they are or build a relationship with them because of the relationship we had with your father? It just was.
Well, I think for me, it really was not a priority at the time. And I think I was young, so I didn't really know how to search for anyone. I mean, it's like, oh, you have a brother. Okay. But I think it was because I did not have a connection that I didn't feel the need to be connected. If that makes sense. It's like, how do you miss something if you don't know how it feels? Again, going back to being an only child, that's all I knew.
Was
being an only child. So I get it where people who are adopted and they want to get to know their biological, and I think it's more so out of curiosity. It does not necessarily mean it's a necessity because some people have great families that adopt them and they do well, but there's always that missing piece. Like, I want to know how my mother looks. I want to know how my father looks. So I think as I got older, going back to the story, it kind of hit me like, I wonder how my brother looks. Is he still existing? Is he still alive? What does he look like? What does he like to eat? Does he look like me?
Is there any connection now, or
there is? I mean, it's little though. It's periodic. I mean, and I think that also comes from him. Him growing up as an only child.
I think you both are protecting yourselves by.
Yeah, but I would love a better relationship with him. But when we were off air, when I say people are people, I had to learn in life, and this is not just with my brother, this is not just with anyone, but you have to allow people to be people. And what you've done as far as if I've opened up or did the olive branch or I said, and that person doesn't come this way, you can't make them. And you have to be okay with it. Because if not, you'll end up hurting yourself. Because, again, he's older than me. So he's been used to being only longer than me. And even though our father is deceased, I would think that, or I would have hoped that we would have had a close relationship, but it's okay because people are people and they go through their things. And I've been okay this long. I think I'll be okay.
I think you'll be okay.
I think I'll be fine.
But also growing up, around middle school, going into high school, was the presence of your father not being there, did it affect you any way, you believe?
I think about this sometimes. How would I have been different if I had a father? I think if not even a father, let's take the father out for a reason. Let's say a male figure, a strong.
So different.
Because there's a difference. You can have a male figure, and people have male figures all the time.
Before you explain that part, could you explain what's the difference between the strong and not strong? Okay,
strong male figure is someone who protects you, who shows you the right things in life, who wants you to have a better existence than they are. They are leaders of the family, right? A male, just having a regular male or whatever existence is someone who, let's just say for my mom, if she dated a man, he would just come in, drink the water, go to bed and fart and go to sleep.
I think men do a little more than that, but
but
whatever.
no, but
Kitty.
saying
Yeah,
there's no connection, there's no sense of responsibility, there's no relationship with the kids. They don't care if you graduate or not. They're not looking into your future. They're just simply there because they're with the mother.
There's no presence.
There's no presence. There's an empty space. But when you have a strong male, you have someone who says, "Hey, let me show you how to get on that bike and ride it. Let me show you how to fix this. How's your work? What's going on?" They have conversations with kids. And I think for me, I think having a strong male figure probably would have helped me in my relationships with men later, because generally men know men, right? So if you brought a man to the house, or at my age, a young boy, and I'm, when you had that love at 14, 15, you thought you'd never live again if they broke up with you. I mean, it was
You're
just...
still living.
Yeah, you're still living. But at that time,
it
was heavy. And I think the songs had something to do with that too. But you didn't think you were going to breathe again. But I think having that strong male figure in life that you could have went to, cried on their shoulder and told you it's okay. These are how boys are. They stink. But you'll find someone else. You'll be, I think that would have helped me in relationships. I think that was maybe the only component. Or if I would have had a big brother, he would have put me on game. He was like, "Sis, that's game." Be like, "What you mean that's game? Sis, let me show you. I done told 5 people the same thing." What? Right. I would have had game on men. I had to learn through heartache and disappointment.
All these great men.
I'm just saying.
I'm definitely pro men. So.
And there are a lot of great men, but there are a lot
100%. They're amazing men.
Yeah, no, there are amazing men, but there are also a lot of not amazing men, and a lot of people who take advantage of people who are green, as what they call it, or people who are gullible. And I would give people an A at first, and they work their way to an F. See, some people start you off with an F and you have to work your way to the A. Absolutely. I was always giving people the benefit of the doubt. And I think that was something that I had to learn in life, like, the red flags, the things like that. So I didn't have a big sister to put me on game either, because, that happens too when you have someone.
So you think another person in the house that wasn't your mom that could give you a little bit more wisdom?
Right, because you can't talk about your mom to everything, and that was one of our problems, because remember I said the sisterhood. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I forgot she was my mom. So I would talk to her about relationships. And I was like, that was the worst thing in the world, because I forgive him and she ain't forgiving him. Ever.
That's her daughter.
That was the worst thing. So I had to start separating them. Like, this is my mom. This is my mom. This is not my sister. I can't tell her everything.
But that's where you also went and got information from.
Yeah, but your mom giving you information, and your sister or your friend girl or even your cousin, it's a lot of different. And the judgment is not the same, because we hold our children usually on a higher expectation. So the disappointment is a little different. See, your sister would be like, "Girl, you did what? Okay, we're going to go to the store. We're going to get the test, and we're going to whatever." It's kind of like your mom, on the other hand, is like, "Oh my God, where did I fail as a parent? Very true. I had plans for you. You disappointed me."
You've been dating this hard-headed boy. But when you got to high school, how did you start finding and getting a little bit more clarity on your identity, or were you still?
Well, the first 2 years of high school, I hated it, because I was at Suncoast High School, and Suncoast at that time was known for the nerds. It was known for the smart kids, and I think it was because of a boy who's now in prison. But anyway, I'll digress. But I think I wanted to go to another school because I wanted to go where the popular kids, where the fun kids went, and I wanted to rebel. So the first 2 years academically, I purposely tried to sabotage myself, because you had to have a 2.0 or above, or I think it was at that time maybe a little higher. And then the light bulb went off. I had a guidance counselor that sat and talked with me. She's like, "What are you doing? You're so smart."
So why were you fighting that identity? I'm a smart young girl.
Because it wasn't cool to be a smart young girl. It wasn't cool to be a nerd. It wasn't cool to want things in life. I think I started gravitating to the thugs and the street hustlers, and it was a lifestyle that kind of, I don't know, something about a thug was I don't know, attracted me. It was the bad boy thing that couldn't be tamed. And I think I got attracted to that. I think because I was so structured and so sheltered that something new attracted me. And it was the wrong thing. Now that I see it, I understand, like, girl, if I could have went, a couple of people would have been missing out of the couple people. But then I think about it, well, if they were missing, would I still be who I am? Because they were also part of my puzzle.
Very true.
Right?
What was it about that identity of that thug, the guy what made him attractive to you? Or what were you attractive to?
I think just because to me at that time, bad boys were just, it was a sex appeal. I mean, even though I was young, it was just something about the image of how they talked, how they walked. They were flashy. Now I think about it and just being transparent, I'm like, I'm thankful that I wasn't loose with it, because I know people who died of AIDS back then. And it's like being with these drug dealers, they have the cars and the rims and the jewelry, but a lot of people got sick back then. And I was like, thankfully I wasn't to the point where I was just trying to give it up, but I did have an attraction for people who lived that lifestyle at one time. And I don't really know where it's from. I don't know whether because they were mature, they were like bosses, and I was missing my dad and, a lot of that. So I tell even younger people now, I'm like, the nerds are actually the cool ones now. You think the drug boys, but when you flash back and when you fast forward 10 years, that same boy that you call a nerd may be a CEO right now at a business, right? And that other person that was flashy is probably going to be in jail or dead or something else. So it was just an image. I think it was an image for me. And again, I used to like music. So automatically it was kind of like.
It went with the lifestyle.
The lifestyle. Yeah, I was rapping. I had goals in my mouth. Yeah, that's another life.
So wait, Kitty.
Yeah,
just visualizing this whole thing.
I had 3 goals at the bottom of it was like little tips. I used to wear Gucci links, colored hair.
Meanwhile, you were in Suncoast.
Yeah, so Suncoast. So I got the goals actually after my senior year. Suncoast, the only thing I did on my body that was rebellious at the time was I got a piercing in my nose. And that was forbidden. And it was forbidden verbally. And I remember my principal actually wanting to tell me to put this thing, I had to take it out or I probably would have gotten expelled. And I learned at an early age how to read my rights because it wasn't in the student handbook. And I challenged it and they couldn't do anything about it. And I think later they probably put in a rule, but my guidance counselor was so funny. I remember the conversations. She had to be strict, but she got behind closed doors. She was like, I love what you did. You didn't allow us to tell you what to do with your body. And I was like, yeah. I was like, it wasn't in a rule. And I'm going to keep my ring. I'm going to keep my nose ring. Yeah.
And you just felt that was the route to go and you stuck with
it. And I'm not crying. I feel a tear. I'm not crying.
Don't worry, Kitty.
No, I'm not crying. I just
you want to just be clear. You're not crying.
I'm not crying. No. My eyes are watering. I have allergy eyes.
So when did you really get to the point where you accepted the fact that you're just a smart young girl and I'm just gonna stick to Suncoast?
11th grade. 11th grade. I skid through with my grades. 11th grade, I started realizing I needed to buckle down. And a lot of my friends were talking about college. 11th grade, you start talking. I'm like, where am I going to go with this GPA? I'm going to be at somebody's school. And I started buckling down. And then 12th grade, it really hit me. I had all my regrets because all my friends were leaving early. And I had to redo some of the courses. But I ended up still graduating, I think, with a 3.4 GPA, which isn't too bad. I mean, I could have had way higher, but first 2 years I had to make up. And then senior graduation, went up to Daytona, got loose with someone I thought was a person that I was going to be with for a while.
For the rest of your life.
Yeah, it didn't happen. I got pregnant. Yeah.
So did you go out to school or you guys had a relationship?
No. So I knew him. Like he kind of liked me for a long time and I never paid him any attention and I just kind of gave in. Yeah. He looked like Tupac. So I had a crush on Tupac. Everyone knows this. And I met Tupac. Everyone knows that I love Tupac.
So he looked like Tupac, and you said, "This is the guy I'm gonna be with the rest of my life because he looks like Tupac."
Well, that was one of the things.
Okay.
And that didn't happen. I mean, young, dumb, and full of what. So
yeah. So you guys, so you guys decided to go to Daytona. Why Daytona?
That was a thing back then. It was just a lot of people went to Daytona, and so yeah. And when people say it only takes one time to have sex, it literally does. It was our first time and got pregnant. Age of 18, disappointed my family so bad. And I was like, I was working. So I always worked. I never told you that. I always worked. I worked with fast food. So I worked since the age of 14. Always worked. Always had a job. One or two.
Just to take care of yourself, or that was a responsibility that you had?
No, because I didn't want to ask my mom. Like, I was into like jewelry and I was into, different things. And my mom being a single parent, I would ask her and she would like, well, I got to see. I hated that word. Those words. I got to see. I don't know. The rent's due. Okay, so I'm getting ready to work because I'm tired. I want to go to the flea market. I want to put stuff on layaway. I want to do this. Like, that was my goal. So I always worked. But, being pregnant, my mom cried for days. My aunt was like, I don't know who you are.
Was it because they had so much hopes for you?
Yeah, being 18, I graduated, right? I used to always say, well, at least I graduated, because there were people that were 15 that had children, like in the 10th grade had a belly, So I at least say, well, at least I graduated. But yeah, it was hard because that was I didn't expect that. That was an expectation from me. And I was rapping. I wanted to, you think about your body image. I had lost weight. I was like, yeah, I'm getting ready to be this it girl. And boom, baby. And, for the first, I was like, do I get an abortion or do I get A words, abortion or adoption? I was like.
So when you knew you were pregnant, those were your options to start. It was not even to take care of the baby.
No, at all. No. 18, rapping, was just met Tupac. We were hot girls.
How was the children's father at that time?
Well, he was in denial. I only did it one time.
Wait, so that one time. You were still in Daytona.
Mm-hmm.
You guys broke up, done and over with.
Yeah, when he started denying. So I was here. So he lived in another town. So I'm here, pregnant, 18, with my mom. She got over it, when I started showing. So then they got happy. Well, they accepted me. So then I accepted the pregnancy. Because it took me like almost 3 months to tell my mother. Like, that was one of the hardest things to do, was tell her I was pregnant. So fast forward, I had the baby. Then I was like, well, I can't go off to school.
But before you even get there, how did you deal with the disappointment of the family being so disappointed in you that you?
Well, I expected it. It wasn't. I didn't expect him to give me open arms. That's heavy news. I expected them to be disappointed. I didn't know how long they would be disappointed, but that's why I was like, I couldn't tell my mom. Like, people at my job knew that I was pregnant. My mom didn't. I was like, I can't tell her. Okay. She's like, well, you might not can tell her, but that's going to tell them soon because you're getting bigger.
How was that conversation?
Oh, I think I probably purposely not remember that. It was hard. It was, I think I just came out with it, and she cried.
Was it just screaming. With her, or was
it was just with her first?
And now she has to share the story with everybody.
And then I told my aunt that I was pregnant.
Which one was harder, your aunt or your mom?
Oh, they were both equally as hard, because my aunt was more of the structured scholar, the one who wanted me to go to Howard University. She had my whole map out for me. Thought I should do this and thought I should do that. And I laugh at that to this day, because even my aunt apologized to me now and says, you know what, I'm sorry for putting so much pressure on you, for telling you what I wanted you to do. You had to find your own way. And they've always known this. I've always been the rebellious person. And it wasn't intentional. It's because I can't be something that you want me to be. I have to be something that I am. And I think that was part of it. But my son, Chad, is one of my best inventions. Love him to death. I have another son. I got pregnant at 26. Almost same situation. Like, didn't end up with the father. And again, we're going back to that game. That game that I needed. That game. And, having 2 kids out of wedlock, I was like, that's it. I'm locking this thing down. I'm not doing this anymore. I can't do it anymore.
So before I want to go back. So when you got it firstborn, now
Mm-hmm.
you have a child.
Mm-hmm.
How was life for you now? How was, because you also are, you're an artist.
Right. So life was so a lot of the artistry got put on pause. But I actually found a great job, and the way my mom worked it out was like I worked at night, she worked in the day, so we didn't really do like the whole daycare thing for a while until he was like 2 years old. So everything got put on pause. No music, nothing. But I did decide to go back to school. I went to Palm Beach State College and I got my AA in film and TV. Because I said I wanted some connection. I was like, okay, I can't be in front of the camera yet. I got to get myself together. But I do want to learn how to produce music videos. That was one of my biggest things. Like, I want to be the next hype one. I want to do music videos. So they had an associate in science, which was accelerated. You get 2 years. And then boom. So I learned editing, film, scripts. We worked on an Avid, which was back in the day, that was like the best editing system back in the day. And when I graduated, I'm like, I'm ready. I'm ready to be a big producer. And yeah, that didn't happen. But I started looking for jobs, and I remember this news job it was hiring was an editor, and they wanted to pay it was like $9 an hour back then. I'm like, I got a child. I can't, $9 an hour is nothing. And then one of my friends was like, Comcast is hiring. And I think at the time they were paying like $11. So then I started working for Comcast, 20 years now still working for the same company. But I knew at that time I needed stability. Now I do have regret a little bit about that, you told me, because I said if I would have taken that editor job at $9 an hour, I probably could have been a news producer, executive because you move up quick in the news.
Absolutely.
But I was thinking about the money. I didn't even see the big picture.
So that's a real thing in 2020 for the longest, where a lot of people believe the money is going to get them to where they're going, but really the opportunity in a relationship is
right. That key word.
But did you always have a vision to be in production, or was it what you were exposed to watching Hype William and all these different people that made you say film is gonna be
No,
it?
so I knew from early on that I was a creative person, that I needed to be into an industry where I was a creative person, whether it's through music, whether it was through film, whether it was through TV, radio. That was always something that I wanted to do. At that time, you're thinking about the 90s, media wasn't really big like it is now. I mean,
we didn't have the same access. Like we are in control a lot of it now. Right.
So yeah, you had to grow relationships. You had to get the degrees. You had to be in the rooms. I mean, right now, kind of same, but not really. So it was more structured back then. Being just like with music, now you can put your own music out. Before you had to send a demo, and hopefully people got it. And I did get signed it was a record company called EKG in Miami. I was one of the first female MCs there, and unfortunately the business wasn't ran properly and it got shut down. So that was like a disappointment number 55, right, in life, because I just knew I was gonna be the next big rapper. And I realized early that being a young woman in that industry, there were certain things that you had to do, and you could not just be talented. That was not, no. And people will say, oh, but usually it's male dominated. And, no shade to men, but usually
I'm here for that. Don't worry.
Usually men who have power, right, want things. Because in their eyes, there are a lot of talented women. What makes you different? What are you willing to do different than she is? Because talent back then wasn't scarce. I mean, just think about if you want a good singer. How many church choirs can you walk in and find a good singer, right? Absolutely. So what are you willing to do? And I had to realize, I said, are you willing to sell your soul to get sold? And I was not. I had a child, and I didn't want to leave him, with my mom, because I felt a sense of responsibility, even though my mom was she was my co-parent. She co-raised my kids because I never left my mom. I always stayed with her. And I didn't want to be that mother who my children didn't know. I didn't want to be that mother who my children called Kenya. Right? Because going back to the father. So I put a lot on hold for my children, so they would always see me in the morning. Even to this day, people's like, you have kids. I'm like, I see my children every day. You don't see them on Facebook because it's not your business. But my kids see me every day. And that's important for me because I brought them in this world, and who am I to abandon them?
I think you said something that was so powerful. So you didn't want your children calling you
Kenya.
Ken because of you calling your father.
Correct.
So that relationship with them was so important to you. But you said another thing. So the relationship with your mom, of that teamwork, that was it because you guys had each other and that's all you guys had?
That's all we knew. That's all we knew. That's all we knew was each other. And my mom, her background is social work. So she was it's kind of like people, if you ever know a person who's been in law enforcement, even though they're retired, they still have that law enforcement type, thing, radar. And that's just like social work. She knew how kids were when they were placed in the system, how when they didn't have a family who loved them or who wanted to get rid of them. So she always was like overprotective of my kids. She didn't want them spending the night. She didn't want them going places that we didn't know. And she was like that with me too. And that's why I think I was a little bit, because I was, like I said, that sheltered, because my mom was always overprotective. She said she was molested when she was a child. So she did not want that to happen to me. So all that spending the night and being on your uncle's lap, no. None of that was happening. So that went over to me. So then I became a sheltered parent. So I'm like, listen, you're not gonna go over here. No. So that's how our unit was.
So parenting while working a career job, and also constantly finding, because you said another thing, you said, failure number 55. What makes you keep on going, and why? How do you keep on creating an opportunity for yourself?
Well, I always look for an opportunity that's going to benefit me. If it doesn't benefit me, and when I say that, meaning being a prostitute in the music industry would not have benefited me. Maybe in a short term, I could have gotten that record. But in the long term, I would have been either drugged out, sexed out, might not even been here. And I've always been a person that's, what I call is a hypochondriac. So I was always on health. I was always on, just because it glitter ain't gold. Just because that man is sitting behind a desk does not mean that man is not HIV positive, right? Because that stuff is real. And I would never want to be that person to say, you know what, I gave up my this for that. So I always would I always knew that I was going to do something. I just said, well, this opportunity is not for me. I'm going to find another opportunity, and then I'm going to find another opportunity, and then I'm going to find another opportunity. So it was it's like a maze, right? And think about it. It's just a lot of this. Okay, that's an empty closed. Okay, let me go here. But I'm going to find my way out of this.
What makes you keep on going?
I don't have a choice to give up. I can't. What if I give up, I die. And it's not even in a physical state of death. It's a mental state of death. I can't even, I'm not wired to lay down, because when you stop dreaming, you stop living. When you give up, you give out. So for me, it's not an option to give up, because as God wakes me up every day as a new opportunity. So that no that happened yesterday, I'm looking for the yes today. And that's what keeps me going. It's because I know with every fiber in my being that I am going to be a media mogul. It's no, I'm not even thinking opposite. I'm not saying what if, the only way that stops is if I stop. And I don't believe I'm stopping anytime soon.
Where do you get that from?
Intuition, higher connection.
Did you see some of this growing up?
I've always had, and I don't mean to say it like I'm not a psychic. I don't like to use those words. People say I'm a visionary. And I know whatever I usually vision, it's not going to be easy. So I never take it for granted. But what I vision, I work for. And it's not something that, people think you have a certain time, like say, well, I'm going to be a movie star. And people say, okay, I'm going to be a movie star. Okay, now that you've put that out there, how are you going to be a movie star? What are you going to do to work toward that? Because it's not saying that you can't do it. But what happens is most people don't work toward the vision. If I put it out there, I'm going to work. I say I'm going to get an Emmy. I'm going to get an Emmy. How do I get an Emmy? Well, you have to produce a TV show. Okay, that came. TV show's coming next year. So now I have to work toward Emmy-nominated material. Now I research who's got an Emmy. Why have they got an Emmy? So I always work towards what I want to get. And it's just something that I've always believed in. And I always hear people say, you want it, you write it down. Have you ever heard people say that? Like, you want it, you put it in a vision. And I've heard everyone who's gotten something, and I'm like, all these people cannot be lying. It has to be something in there. Now, again, yeah, I want $1 million, yeah, but you got to work toward your vision.
But did you see someone else in your family that consistently worked for what they want?
My mom is not creative. My mom is my mom, right? So she's a social worker. She's always worked. She's never been a lazy woman. My mom is not a creative person. I don't know where I got this from. I used to do like Michael Jackson and
but I don't think it's just I don't think it's just a creative thing. I think I'm more wondering, where do you get the persistent, like the constantly finding a way to create another opportunity for yourself?
Okay, so I think again, the only child thing is really gotten me to a point where I am so strong in who I am and what I want. I don't like to be told no. I don't know if people say that's spoiled. It's not really spoiled. But, people say, oh, you got an only child syndrome. And there's sometimes when people meet me, it's like, you don't act like an only child. But only children usually get what they want because there's no competition. There's no competition. I want it, I get it. I don't have to think about my sibling. I don't think about how this person's going to feel. I want it, I get it. And I think that's always been who I am. So if I want something and you tell me no, it's only no from you. But I'm going to look for them or they or whoever to tell me yes. So I'm always looking for the yes. I don't care who you are and what you tell me. You say, I can't do this. Oh, I'm going to show you that I can do this. Because I've always had that in me. You're not going to deny me. And I had Mr. Willie Gary, who I love. He said, you're like me, you have a fire. You refuse to be denied. I've been denied more than I've had access. And I've always said I never want anyone, person, to feel they have control over my destiny. I will show you better than I can tell you.
So one of the things I always consistently see about you, you constantly create your own opportunity.
You have to, because no one's going to give it to you. And I've learned that being a naive person in the beginning, I believe people had my best interests. And I believe that people who had titles would get me to places that I wanted to be in, or doors that I felt at that time needed to be open. I believed people. And I realized that people will disappoint you quicker than anyone else. And I say that because we tend to give people more credit than they actually even deserved. I'll give you an example. Beethoven, the CEO. Let's just say I'm giving the name of the podcast station. Okay, so I know Beethoven. Beethoven knows what I do. Beethoven's going to get me an opportunity to get me into the rooms because that's who he is. Now, that's my perception of you. Beethoven is looking at Kitty like, okay, yeah, she all right.
I don't know why I'm being used as an example, but keep going.
But I'm just giving an example so the people can follow. Your perception of me is Kitty, all right. I know a lot of people that interview. She's not special. Whatever. But you see how we have different expectations or perceptions, and that's what I think I had to learn not to do anymore. Just because you are a person on a network and I know you, or you're a person in the radio and I know you, I automatically think you're going to help me. Because I'm not asking for a handout. I'm just asking for an opportunity. And that's the difference. See, a lot of people don't understand the difference. Opportunity and a handout. A handout is when I've done nothing. And you just said, I'm going to give you this job because I know you. An opportunity is, for me, is saying, guess what? I see you. Right? I see what you're doing. I can't promise you that it's going to be the outcome that you want it to be, but I'm going to give you access to this room and I'm going to let you do what you do. And that's all I've ever wanted from people. I didn't want a handout. I love to work. I want the opportunity. So when I realize that the opportunity is not there, I create my own opportunity. So if you tell me I have no space for you on my show, okay. A week later, I create my own show. Because then I have control over my ship. Because I let you be the captain of my ship, giving you the control. I mean, you can shut it down at any time. So when you shut it down, you shut down my dreams. I can't allow that to happen. And I'm not doing a godlike presence. I'm not all that. But I understand the power I have. And when I give you my power, I lose my power. I can't give you my power. So I have to create all my own lanes, and I stay in them.
You talking your talk, Kitty. Keep going. Sorry, I got excited.
I'm just saying, and we can't get upset with people because they don't move when we want them to move, because it may not be in the card. Sometimes I believe a lot of my no's were purposefully, because if I would have gotten yeses from a lot of people, I wouldn't have been able to create my own thing. And that's what happened with my show, because I wanted to interview people and I started on radio, and I had a radio gig for about 2 years, and I brought the ideal and we did it for a couple of weeks and the radio shut down on me. And Beethoven, I had to realize, I said, wow, what do I do now? I've gotten people hyped up, but I was on someone else's platform. So I said, what happens now? And I remember calling one of my people, my interviewers, Adrienne, shout out to her. I said, I'm not on radio anymore. I said, but I still want to conduct the interview. If you allow me to come to your home, we can do it. And she said, come on over. And that was the story. That was one of the biggest things for me, because that opened up the people of power and the way I had it structured. And I said to myself, I will never allow someone else again to control my dreams, because we allow people to have too much control over what God is saying. It's not for them, it's for you. I gave you the vision. Why are you allowing them to carry the vision I gave you? They're going to drop it. They're not going to do the things that I gave you. So now this is why, and it's not coming from a space that Kitty has to control everything. Kitty doesn't want anyone to work with her. Kitty is a loner, and it's not because I don't want to work with people. It's not because I don't want a team, but I know right now I'm in the molding stage of who I am as a media mogul, and I have to make sure that everything that I do is careful and is intentional, because I've given so much to people who have just taken it away and said, you know what, they had no skin in the game. And when you have no skin in the game, you don't fight for it. You don't care about it. So I said, the same energy that I'm putting into others, I'm going to put in myself. And I made that decision a little bit before the pandemic, Beethoven, to move in a way that I knew would accelerate my growth. Because being that only child, I felt like I needed people, man. I was like, oh, I need people. I need to bring everybody with me. And then I realized I'm the only one putting in any work. I'm giving people opportunities, and I'm, comfortable being behind the scenes, but they're not hungry like I am. So now I've learned to say, you know what? When I do get this dream team, the people have to be either as hungry or hungrier than I am. I can't be the hungriest one on the team.
Facts. Because you'll be going to get the food, kill the food. clean the food, cook it, and everything. Yeah,
If
that's
I'm the
real.
hungriest one on the team, I've set myself up for failure.
100%. But then with the media mogul, I'm gonna own that with like I love that for you. This journey of becoming a media mogul, you now have created another show that you're producing right now. What's the name of the show?
It's What's Poppin' PBC.
What is What's Poppin' PBC?
So What's Poppin' PBC is really based off of think about tourism. So for example, if you lived in California and you thought about coming to Palm Beach County, of all places, where would you go? What are the places that you need to see? Who would you need to see? So I think it was important. This is also sponsored by the Film Commission, but it was one of the things that what makes people in Palm Beach County special. And thing for me is I think becoming a journalist. I didn't say this, but I do have a degree in also mass communications and journalism. Got that late in life, but shout out to the older people who get degrees. And I am 3 classes away from my master's.
Nice. You did it.
I'm doing it. So we'll celebrate in May on the master's. But there was something that I wanted to do where I don't want to just showcase a business. Like, yeah, what about the owner? What did the owner put into this business? Because I think that makes a difference. I mean, you probably don't know this, but you turned me on to grip bowls.
Don't say that because a lot of people think I didn't do that.
Oh my gosh.
Keep going. I'm messing with it. I don't
No, but I'm just saying, like, you turned me on to grip bowls. So, when I go to places, I always want to know the backstory. I don't know if that's nosy, but I always want to know the backstory behind people. So for me,
you're a creator.
What's Poppin' PBC is going to also tell the stories of the business owners of the restaurants. Seeing our parks and recreations, seeing some of the events that we have here in Palm Beach County that I do know that need to be highlighted. One in particular that I'm looking forward to is the Black Lux picnic event that's happening in February, and we will be out there doing some correspondence. Yes.
Event.
Yeah. Because that type of event, and like I was so disappointed with media last year because I reached out to some media stations where I was like, you need to be here. You need to be here. And I think they got maybe 1. But see, this year's going to be different. And that's the thing why I know that me and you and things that we do are needed here, because we need to showcase the middle section. I call it the middle section, right? Because when you're higher on the totem pole, you get highlighted. When you're lower on the totem pole, you get highlighted because you're getting exposed. But when it's the midsection, you don't get, it's like you don't fit in any,
It's not enough visibility in that space.
It's not, right. It's not low enough to get highlighted, and it's not high enough to get highlighted. Right. So that's part of what's popping PBC is, because I feel that we need to showcase the things that are popping in our area. And it's going to be a diverse show. It's not just going to be based on Black business. It's based on, small business. It's based on where should you go? What are the things? Culture. Yeah, what are the things here that's popping? And so that's the first series. And, we're already talking about series 2 and coming up with other type shows, because this is just the beginning, and it's going to air on WSFL. That's more so Tri-County, Broward, Miami market. Also, trying to shop it to some other national networks as well. But that's just one. And I didn't know 4 years after independently starting my People of Power show, people would say that, I'm going to see you on TV. They will always say that, you're going to be next Oprah. You're going to be, and I would just take it. I wouldn't think too much of it.
Oh, clear. You believe it, Kelly. You say you're going to be media mogul.
Oh, now I am.
Okay,
but I'm just saying,
before then, you didn't really know.
Yeah, before then, it was just like,
I want to be clear.
Yeah.
You know what time it is.
Yeah, before, but then I started, but let me just tell you, this is the reason why I went back to school. This here looks easy. It's not. Right. And I know the camera didn't see it, but before, there's a lot of pre-production that goes on. There's a lot of production. We're in production mode right now. Then there's going to be post-production after this. So I think a lot of times when people see people who are anointed or appointed to do something, they make it look easy. oh, Beethoven's not doing anything but talking on the microphone. And anyone can do that. Anyone can interview people. But it takes a different intellect. It takes a different grind. It takes consistency. Because you can't do this show one time and feel like, oh, it's going to blow up. You got to, listen, for over 400 interviews I've done. Over 400. Over 400. So when about midlife, people of power, I started realizing that I had a lot more to give just by talking. There's investigative journalism. There's stories that people can't go to the news from because the news doesn't take every story. People think that. They're very selective by what you could have the best story in the world and the newsroom will shut it down. And if anything is going on that's national, you're probably not going to get it, right? So where does the other news fall? Who tells those stories that still need to be told? That's where independent media is so important because we don't sugarcoat it. We don't cut it to 6 minutes when it's actually an hour story. And I tell people, when you do it not because you're on camera. It's been plenty of times, Beethoven, I've been sick. I didn't want to do an interview, but I felt like I had to. But I wanted to do it properly. So when I got the opportunity, shout out to Comcast who paid for my education, I got an opportunity to go back to school for mass communication and journalism. I honed my craft. And I tell people like, oh, they brush off education. Oh, everybody, school not for everybody. It's not. It's not. And I didn't want to do my master's, but I tell people this. My grad school experience made me sad. And that's an acronym. And it gave me more structure. It gave me more accountability and also gave me more discipline. And those are things that I needed.
And so there's a piece to that. I want to, because 100% going into school and getting an education, especially for the industry that you're working on to perfect, is so important. Because I believe a lot of people go into school to school. You're going to school to get an education to bring value to the industry that you're going to be a super mega media mogul.
Yes.
I want to be very clear about that. I think that's the difference. I think that's the difference, I believe, what you're doing and what I've heard a lot of people want to do or try to do or think they're going to do. You actually are going for a purpose.
I like that.
You're going into a space where you want to, you're working toward. You said something earlier in the conversation where you know what you want and you put in the work to go where you're going. That is the consistency I'm learning about you. That whatever it is, one, you're going to create the opportunity because you don't want to be disappointed. You've been disappointed since you were a child. So you don't even want to give people the opportunity to be in control of your destination because you gave so many people an opportunity. But you taking control of your destiny is super dope. It's super powerful. And I think it's creating all the opportunities that you need. But I think we spoke earlier this week. I want to touch on another point before we get off. And I wanted to stay away from this, but it's just a real thing.
Okay.
You said I'm getting better at everything else, but I'm not getting better with relationships.
Well, relationships, and that's all relationships. Relationships right now for me, depending on
dating. Let's be very clear. I want to be very clear.
Okay,
dating.
So dating. So right now, okay, I'm married, so I'm not dating.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I'm married, so I'm not dating yet. I'm not dating yet. But for right now, I think I'm in a space right now of a protective space. And anything that's not working in my life right now, dating, marriage, whatever, is almost put on ice. It's like I can't deal with it right now.
Because it's about you. Why is that?
Because you just said it. Right now, it's about me. It's about my protective space. See, we're all over the place, right? Physically, we're all over the place. More so mentally, we're all over the place. And I've noticed when I try to change people, it doesn't work. So now I'm changing myself, right? And, marriage is not an easy thing. It's a very harsh reality of two people that need to learn how to get along. I'll just say that because we are different people. And when you have hurt in a relationship, when you have hurt or distrust in a marriage, can it work? Yeah. It does it take work to work? Yeah. Are you willing to put in the work that it takes to work? And that's where a person has to realize or come to a realization that this is going to take more work than I have energy for right now. So when that happens, I had to realize to say, you know what's more important? So I have school that I have to finish in 3 years. I have to make sure my mind is good for that because I'm almost to the finish line. I have a show that I'm producing that I'm the executive producer for, right? I have details that I have to send because I'm accountable now for a whole production. I have 2 sons that depend on me mentally. I have a full-time job. I do media for other companies. I can't think about where someone is putting their penis at right now. I can't think about that. That I have no control over that. Whether it stays in their pants or whether it's going out to the community, I can't think about that right now. I can't. That's too much. I said I'm a media mogul. I didn't say I was Superwoman. So I have a list of right now of a to-do list. Putting a tracker on you, my husband is the furthest thing in my mind right now. Well, whether he's doing right or he's doing wrong, I don't know. But I can't think about that right now. And I think what happens, especially with people who are quote unquote like successful, you see these people on TV and you're like, I can't believe they're staying with them or whatever. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know if they filed for divorce. You don't know if they're staying in separate rooms. You don't know if they're together because they have a financial commitment. You just don't know. And it's really no one's business of why people choose. But I know for me right now, working on marriage is not on my top 10 list. And it's not because I don't care about my husband. It's because I care about me more right now. And I believe that you have to choose what you have control over. You remember you said earlier, I don't like to be disappointed. And if I put my trust in you and you disappoint me, I can't really go to that place again. I have to create my own happiness. And creating my own happiness sometimes is burying something mentally that made me unhappy. Now, will I be a dog and go and retrieve that bone? Maybe one day, maybe a couple of months. But right now, I got to focus on getting it. Because I can't let something that I can't control destroy me and my future. And a lot of times that happens. We let the best of someone else or the worst of someone else get the best of us. And that's when people lose their minds. You can't let people control you and your destiny and in your mental space. You have to dismiss people and they can be in the same bed with you. And it's not anything that, I don't know. I can't for people who've never been there, it's hard for me to explain it. And I don't know if you've ever had that situation where you have disconnected someone who is still connected to you.
I've killed a lot of people in my mind. And still living.
If not, you will die. And it's one of those, it's either me or you. It's either me. Either I'm going to fight you every day and try to control what you're doing, who you're doing it with, what you're saying. Okay, which is not good on your stress. So you end up in the hospital. So if I end up in the hospital stressed out over something that I had no control over anyway, I am no good to anyone. I am no good to my production team. I am no good to my kids. I am no good for my mother. I'm no good for anyone. So I had to choose.
So let me tell you the funniest thing I can tell you right now while we're wrapping up.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine me driving down this road, right? And then there's like a deer or somebody coming towards me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I asked that question, I was driving down this road and I hit reverse so fast in my head, like, well, let me get out of here because Kitty's about to go in. You literally went in about this relationship that put everything on perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I will never talk to you about that side again because I got the clarity of where you are.
Yeah.
You choose you. I was talking, I was like, reverse. Let me get out of here.
No,
but it's a real thing.
It's no, and again, I'm transparent as I possibly can be.
You are,
but I just don't put the inner. Like I've learned so much. Like if you probably would ask me that maybe some months ago, I probably would have had so many choice words on how this person, da, da, da. But then when I realized like where I'm going,
Mm.
I have no room for that. And things you have no room for do two things. They either fall off. It's like a ship, rocket ship. Things fall off, or they get with the program. But right now, I can't even focus on that.
I'm super impressed by your mindset that
Thank you.
that you carry. It makes complete sense to me now of how you get in the positions that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
You create them yourself. You trust yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you're willing to put the work in for yourself. But you have a great sense of who you are, and that separates a lot of people from becoming a good media person or a media
Mm-hmm.
mogul. And I believe you're in your route of becoming this media mogul person you are, because I don't believe you're going to stop until you get there.
That's correct.
Your consistency that I've listened to this conversation from childhood to first child to entertainment, and you had so many other success within entertainment
Mm-hmm.
that we probably didn't cover. But I think your story is so impactful because of your consistency and your impact and your
Mm-hmm.
trust in yourself, and you put in the work, man. I always
Mm-hmm.
will commend and love and respect anybody that's gonna put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
And I could never deny you of being part of Hustler's testimony, because you're someone that put in the work. Like, you show up, and I've seen you on buses. I've seen you.
Well, listen, I got another one coming out, but another bus, and I tell people all the time, it's not even about people think about the entrepreneur. Like, I'm busting in the corporate arena as well. I'm a lead for the state of Florida. For the DEI Council for Comcast, Black Employee Network.
Yeah,
Shout
and
out
it's
to
not
them.
about entrepreneurship.
Right. And I'm just saying, so it's a lot. Like, I got a lot on my plate. That's why I don't
Well,
have.
you carry it well. I think that's
Thank you.
that's the point that I'm making. Is
trying.
like, as the term hustler testimony is somebody that get up and create and fight and go hard every day for themselves and their family and everything they're doing. And your testimony, you didn't have it easy.
Right.
You deal with so many things, but you're constantly moving forward. And I don't think you're accepting the things that probably caused you to kind of look back or
Mm-hmm.
get adjusted. You haven't accepted anything, and you only accept that you're gonna be this media mogul. And I just want to give you your flowers now before you become too big to come by the show. And
I will never be too big. See, listen, unlike me, and this is no shade to anyone, but I've had a couple people on my show personally, and I gotta interview you too, because I've been saying this for a while. But anyway,
super nervous.
But listen, I always would say, don't get too big for an interview. And a couple people, like, they've gotten big, and they act like they don't know me anymore. But I don't I don't believe in that. I believe in great karma, and I believe if I sat down with you today, I can sit down with you next year this time and talk about more of my amazing story.
Absolutely. And we'll do that also.
Right, amazing story, but I love what you do. I love your grind. You are phenomenal. Your team is phenomenal, because I know you have a team of people.
100%. It's not me. I can't take the credit.
Yeah, but you can. I mean, you're the captain, and I just love what you do, and I wish you much success. And whatever I can do, Beethoven. This is on record. This is no cap, no nothing, right? No cap. Because I know people, they just say stuff. They don't mean it. They just talk. A lot of people do that.
Big fan.
I try to be a woman of my word. So I was here on time.
I'm proud, and that's very difficult for you. I'm joking.
No, I'm actually usually, usually I.
No, but you did. You did show up on time. You definitely were 6 minutes earlier than 10.
Yeah, I mean, because I just found out about this 48 hours ago.
Yeah, because we talked about it, and it was.
I just, so I adjusted my schedule for Beethoven.
Stop it!
I had to get my team to I was supposed to be on Good Morning America today, and
here we go.
48 hours. Beethoven told me he forgot to put me on the book, so
I thought I did, and my team called me and said, "What are we doing on Thursday?" And I was like, "Oh, I didn't tell you guys or tell her." Mm-hmm. It was all complete in my head, but we're here now. No, Kitty, it's been a great experience. I love learning more about who you are. I appreciate your authenticity.
Thank you.
I can't wait for Good Morning America when you talk about your Emmy of being a media mogul. So anything else you want to add? You want how to connect with you or what to look forward to on your next show and your other show? Anything you
Yeah.
need
So January we start filming. So January to March of January is really it's like here in 5 weeks. I'm like, good gosh, it's going by fast. So we start recording. So you'll see me around these Palm Beach streets, getting some great interviews and great footage. And then we air the first Sunday in April. We air. So we're going to air for 13 weeks. It's going to be 6 episodes, and I'm already now looking for additional shows. So my goal, and I say this very firmly, my goal is by 2024 to have 3 shows on television. Oh. And as long as God gives me breath and a sane mind, and this is why I can't think on things that can't concern me too much, it will happen. And I don't want to just be the face of every show. The first show I had to be the face of because I had to make sure that it went well and I can depend on me. The second and third show definitely will have different cast and different people that I want to have in front. I don't know who they are yet, but I know that they're going to be other people because I don't always want to be in front. I like to be behind the scenes, right? But sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So, hey, I had to put on my host face and get this thing popping. No pun intended.
What's popping?
Yeah. So I'm excited. I'm excited about Palm Beach. And I'm excited about you and all the things that you're doing. I know you got some other stuff happening. And to follow me, just Kitty Lundan. I keep it simple. KittyLundan. And that's on all social media handles. I don't do all that crazy stuff. On Twitter, I'm Twitty the Kitty. I'm really not on there as much as I need to be, but hopefully I'll get better in 2023. Yes. But it's been a pleasure. And how can they follow you and get
I forgot. The team told Kitty.
But no,
that.
I told you I was going to remind you.
You're going to remind me. So yes, please follow, like, and share, and subscribe to the platform. I'm working on becoming better and saying that, but I'm so in tune with the conversation. And I'm a terrible media mogul. God bless. Good night. Kitty Lundan.